The lesson today is all about percentages. We are doing a quick review of percentages, and by the end of the lesson, you should be able to define what are percentages, or we call it rates as well. You should be able to use percentages to calculate larger or smaller quantities. You should be able to define a proportion and recognize the concept of proportion in fractions, decimals, and percentages, and convert between percentages, decimals, and fractions. Now, what are percentages? When we say percent, we actually say it is per 100. And the symbol used is this one. Alright? So what do I mean by per 100? Let's have a look at the grid here. I've got a square box which I have split into 100 small squares. Alright? If we say 1%, it's actually 1 square out of 100 squares. So it's 1% is 1 over 100. What about 28%? It's actually 28 over 100. 85% is actually 85 over 100. And finally, 100% is actually 100 over 100, which is just 1, which is the original big box, big square by itself. So remember, percent is actually per 100. Right. What are the uses of percentages? Well, when you're earning money, you'll be looking at investment, or maybe borrowing money from a bank to buy a car or a house, or personal loan to buy something else. So the bank will give you things like interest rate, and they are all in percentage. So for example, a home loan could be 3.25% per annum. So that's a rate that bank is charging you for borrowing the money. So we talk about rates of inflation in terms of economy and things like rate of depreciation. Generally, a lot of statistics and probability, when you are reading the newspaper, they express them as percentages. And day-to-day life, which is more applicable to you at this stage, is something like buying goods from a shop. If you go and buy something, you need to know how to calculate GST, you need to know how to calculate the discount, and so on and so forth. What about cooking? You need to work out the proportion of the ingredients. Another useful thing is comparing fractions with different denominators. So if you can convert all the fraction into percentages, we can actually compare it easier. Now there are of course other uses of percentages, which is things like calculating GST, calculating profit, and so on and so forth. We will go on to that a little bit later. So now, let's do a few calculations. You need to calculate the following quantity. 20% of 415. How do you do it? Well, what you can do is actually write it out as 415 times 20%, which is the same as actually 415 times 20 over 100. Alright? And you know you can cross off the 0 and that cross off the 5. So now 415 divided by 5 is 83. Or the other way of doing it is 10% of 415 is 41.5. 20% of 415 is therefore 2 times 41.5, which is 83. Either way is fine. It doesn't really matter how you do it. Pause the video for a while, try 63% of 200 please, and check your answer against mine. At this stage, you don't need to use your calculator yet. Alright, so you can work out 200 times 63 over 100. And then 200 divided by 100 is just 2. 2 times 63 is 126. How about 200% of 5.2? All right. So in this case, I will do the same thing, 5.2 times 200%, which is 5.2 times 200 over 100. 200 over 100 is actually 2. So 5.2 times 2 is just 10.4. Finally, 150% of 60. Again, pause the video for a while and work it out. So now 600 times 150% is actually 600 times 1.5 over, actually 1.5 over 100, which is actually 1.5. So 600 times 1.5 is 900. Or you can work it out, 100% of 600 is 600. 50% of 600 is 300. Therefore, 150% is 900. So it really doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you can work out the percentages. Next one is a worded problem. So let's have a look at this. 25% of people in a rural town watched the Boxing Day cricket match. Calculate how many people watched the match if there are 3,000 people in the town, and B is 2,520 people in the town. So A, let's say 3,000 times 25%, which is 3,000 times 25 over 100. All right, cross that off. So 3 times 25 is 75 and 0. So there were 750 people watching the match. Okay, what about part B? Right, for part B, we can use the same procedure. 2520 times 25 over 100. That will give me 25, and 100, that's 1 over 4. And here 4 times 6, that will give me 24, and 12, that's 30. So it's 630 people. So there were 630 people watching the match. Alright, so you can see that it is useful if I change percentage to fraction. So of course, sometimes you're allowed to use calculator when you are working out this sort of problem. You also now need to know how to change from percentages to decimal and vice versa, percentage to fraction and vice versa, and decimal to fraction and vice versa. Right, let's look at the grid here. So what I've done is I started with this strip here. I label it as 1, okay, as a whole. Here, I divide it by 2, which becomes half, or 50%, or 0.5. Divide by 4, you got 1/4, 0.25, or 25%. Divide by 5, you've got 1/5, 0.2, or 20%. And then divide by 10, you got 1 over 10, 0.1 or 10%, and divided by 20. So it's 1 over 20 or 0.05 or 5%. So you can see that we can actually change from percentage to decimal to fraction and so on and so forth. All right. So I'm going to give you a procedure of converting percentages to decimal or fraction and vice versa. So to convert decimal or fraction to percentage, you multiply it by 100. And to change from percentage to decimal, you divide it by 100. All right. So let's try some example. I'm going to start off with 12 over 25, I want to change it as a percentage. So if I multiply it by 100%, that will give me 100 divided by 25 is 4. 4 times 12 is 48%. Alright? What about 4 over 5 times 100%? Which means 100 divided by 5 is 20. 20 times 4 is 80%. So here, times 100% is actually multiplied by 100 is 37.5%. Times 100% is 45%. And finally, 1.03 is 103%. So you should be able to calculate or convert fraction to percentages and decimal to percentages. What about let's convert from percentage back to decimal? Alright, so 52% is actually 52 over 100, and you know that we can move the decimal from here to the front, therefore is 0.52. Alright, and 23% is 23 over 100, and that is 0.23. Alright, to change from decimal, to change from fraction to decimal, you multiply this by 100% first, and that becomes 25. 25 over 100, therefore this is 0.25. Here, again you multiply it by 100. 100 divided by 20, that is 5. So that is 5 times 3 is 15. It's 115 over 100, 115%, and that becomes 1.15. Alright, you know that this number here will be bigger than 1 because 23 is actually bigger than 20. Now finally, when you're asked to write percentage as and decimal as a fraction, let's have a look at how to do this. 52% is 52 over 100. Now, you have to simplify it because 52 and 100 both can be divided by 2. Actually, can be divided by 4. So 52 divided by 4 is 13. 100 divided by 4 is 25. So it's 13 over 25. What about 23%? It's 23 over 100. Can we simplify it further? No, you can't. We just leave it as 23 over 100. 235% is 235 over 100. And this time, we can actually simplify it. So if this is divided by 5, this would be 20. And divided by 5, 47. 47 over 20. That is fine if you leave it as an improper fraction. Now, writing this as a fraction, 7 and 1/4% is 7.25%. Is actually equals to 7.25 over 100. We cannot leave fraction with a decimal, so we multiply both by 100 is 725 over 10,000 because we are multiplying by 100 over 100 to get rid of the decimal. So in this case, 725 divided by 5, that gives me 145. 145 divided by, we can simplify it further, which is 2000. That will give me that will give me 29 over 400. All right, 0.45, that actually equals to 0.45 times 100%, which is 45%, which is 45 over 100. Again, simplify it, is 9 over 20. And 2.20 is actually 2.20 times 100%. That will give me 2.20 or 220 divided by 100. That will give me 11 over 5. So the percentage of one quantity A of another B is A over B times 100%. Now you must note that A and B must be the same unit of measurement. Alright, this is a very important concept for you to know. You are asked to write 5 grams out of 50 grams as a percentage. We know that they are the same quantity of measurements. So we know we can write the fraction as 5 over 50 as a percentage times 100%. So therefore that becomes 5 divided by 5 is 1, is 10%. Alright, what about 50 cents out of 250 as a percentage? This is cents, this is dollars. So we need to convert 50 cents into dollars or from dollars into cents. So probably it's a little bit easier if you convert from dollars into cents. That is 250 is 250 cents. Therefore, 50 over 250 times 100% equals to, and that is 5. That is 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20, so it's 20%. Alright, finally, you need to write 100 meters out of 2 kilometers as a percentage. So we know 1 kilometers is 1,000 meters. So therefore, 2 kilometers is actually 2,000 meters. Therefore, we can write 100 meters over 2,000 times 100%, which means, let's cross that off, 100, cross that off. So it's 10 divided by 2 is 5%. Alright, one last one. There are 120 people in a running club, and 80 of these people regularly attend the training session on Saturday. Calculate the number of people who attend the training session as a percentage of the number of the running club members. So as a percentage, we know the proportion is 80 over 120. Then we multiply by 100%. So therefore, we can cancel that out. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Alright, so you have 2 over 3 times 100%, and we know that 2 over 3 is 0.666 times 100%. So I'm going to give it as 66.6%. So let's make it 1 decimal place. Alright, so that's all for the lesson today.